talking about like hypnosis, and we're talking about sort of like I want to talk a little bit about like mind control and like sort of conspiracy theories around that. But why is it saying it's a hostile message? Oh, GTFO is considered hostile.
Hostile. My camera is
Mhm.
not coming to the stream, but last time it was a little bit delayed, so I'm just gonna give it a
Yeah,
minute. I'm just gonna give it a
she's a bit of
minute.
a late bloomer. Your camera.
Right? I don't know why, but she is. So we'll
What is it
just we'll
I'm
let
supposed
her
to?
we'll let her be who she wants to be. A mentalist. I've never seen that show, The Mentalist. Is it? Sorry, our microwave's going off. We're heating
I was
up some
wondering if that was
chicken.
ours.
No, it's ours. But
Mentalist and illusionist. Sorry, I'm going to share my
rip
screen.
Neuralicia's camera. Yeah. Oh God, it's so bad. I hate this.
Mm.
It's a brand new camera. It's a brand new like HDS camera, and the only thing that seems to do anything is to adjust the video quality, which is
Oh,
piss.
yeah.
But alas,
Oh,
here we
yeah.
go.
He used to have some semblance of hair. Interesting.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, at least he shaved it. It looks a lot better. Uh,
It's the
where
pineapple
are they?
cam now. Pineapple cam. The Mentalist, the television show, is good. Apparently, have you seen it, Layla? Oh my god! Oh my god!
I don't think so. Isn't it? But it's like a fictional show, right?
Yeah, it's got like
Actually,
it's
yes.
got the creepy guy from The Devil Wears Prada.
Yes, that's exactly how I identify him too. Um,
Yeah.
I have seen clips in the same way that I've seen clips of like the show. What used to be called Psych, Shrink, Psych, one of the and those
Never heard
2000
of her.
sitcoms and stuff. Yeah. Anyways,
Oh
yes,
yeah,
I've
see,
seen.
this guy's got tons of hair though. He's not
Yeah,
following trends. Show me Darren Brown.
I just went back.
He looks like he sucks. Speaking of The Devil Wears Prada, Devil Wears
Yeah,
Prada 2 is coming out.
I know. I'm exception. It's like coming out like next week, which
Oh, is
I'm so
it?
excited. It's one of like the only sequels I'm like actually genuinely excited for because I feel like The Devil Wears Prada was just left on such an
Yeah.
open, you know, concept to like be able to continue and have a sequel, and like
Yeah.
I'm happy they're finally doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching. Do you know who Broy Deschanel is? They're like a YouTube creator. Um. Okay,
I'll look
so
them up.
she's like a pretty similar to philosophizing or philosophy tube, kind
Mm-hmm.
of similar sort of vibes in the like media analysis and like
Okay.
that sort of thing vibes, but definitely very like feminist takes, I guess. Like she like analyzes things from that perspective quite a bit.
Oh, she's
And
Canadian.
oh, is she? I fucking love. She
There we
lives in New
go.
York now, I think. But anyways, her whole YouTube channel is doing media analysis, and she was like, why The Devil Wears Prada is kind of like unreproducible, and it's because basically the way that movies are made is different, and the way that we listen to music is different and stuff like that. So all of the like charm and stuff like that, like you could do a
Mm-hmm.
facsimile, but you'll never be able to catch that lightning in a bottle again, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
the Lord of the Rings. Like it doesn't matter if our production budgets and all of that stuff are much better now. Like it's just never going to happen because the
Yeah.
microcosm that was those years and that movie landing during those years,
Yes.
regardless of its
Well,
quality, is what made it so impactful. So
yeah, and like Anne Hathaway was like fairly well known, but like wasn't like established in the
yeah,
industry
she hadn't
yet when
played
she did
Catwoman
them.
yet.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like this kind of like this up and comer taking on this like, this central yeah, it was you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's like very difficult to replicate, I'm sure.
I that
Hi,
song where
Ezra.
it
Good
starts.
time zone, everyone. Hi,
Yes,
Ezra.
good time sound. Welcome in. At the beginning of The Devil Wears Prada, where like it's the song they say she's a beautiful girl, she's a map of the world or whatever. I'll never
Yeah,
be
yeah,
able to
yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah.
hear that song and not think of the entrance like thing where all the outfits are happening and the shoes and stuff, which is probably the most
Oh,
like
yes.
femme thing
Yeah.
about me. But
Yeah, I mean, like they had like an iconic montage in the middle of the film too. So like those kind of little like storytelling things.
Also,
that are
Stanley
so
Tucci, can we? I
know. He's coming back for the second, I believe, as well.
Yeah, I think everybody is.
I doubt her boyfriend, the guy who plays her boyfriend.
Oh,
He's
well, I mean, if they listen to the fans at all, they will have fucking, gutted that character. But maybe they'll bring him back and make him woke. I mean, like, the important people.
Yeah.
We bullied the camera into submission. I mean, is that what we did? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so no one here has been hypnotized before so far. I'm the only one. They attempted to. So I was at the Calgary Stampede, and they were like asking for volunteers on the Coca-Cola stage. And I was just like, fuck it, why not? Carly's like, go up there. And I was like, okay. So they like pick me out of the crowd. They pick like, 20 people or something, and they narrow it down to 5. And they like get you to try and follow along with this stuff. And I just like straight up was like, and he's like, leave.
So, okay, I have an extremely similar story. And the fact that we both have had the experience of attempting to be hypnotized and we weren't actually is so funny.
Yeah.
But so my undergraduate welcome week, is that a familiar concept for Canadian university? Yes.
I mean, we have Frosh too, kind of.
Similar. So it's like the first week classes haven't really started, or they're like in their early stages, and they have a lot of events and stuff. And in Canada there's like drinking involved, but in the US no, because the drinking age is 21.
Yeah.
But there was one of the exhibition sort of events that they had was a like mass hypnotist, and so he had like 12 people go up on stage. So I went 2 years in a row. The first time I sat in my seat and watched it happen, and there's these people that obviously like they don't necessarily remember what happened to them while they were there. So but he does this slow thing where he talks and he like brings everybody's energy down, so everyone kind of falls asleep. I had a friend who was in my dorm with me who ended up actually falling asleep and being hypnotized in the seat down that like crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so the second year I sat in the front and I ran up to the stage because I was like, I want to be part of the show. And I got like, again, you get like sleepy. There was sort of this like sensation, but because I have such an intense fear of falling asleep in public, it kept me from like going like all like 100%.
That's fair.
So then I ended up having to like get off the stage. But
you have a fear of falling asleep in public? That's oddly specific.
Yes. I don't know. Is it
because
like
you snore?
I think yes, one. Like obviously that's that piece.
I just outed you as a snorer. I'm so sorry.
I mean, I literally was treated for sleep apnea at the age of 21. Like it's crazy. And so I have no uvula anymore, fun fact, but
don't need that guy anyway. She's vestibular.
I know, she's not helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's something about like people observing you, and I don't know, I just like don't.
Oh yeah, well, and if you're unconscious, like I don't know, maybe that's every woman's deepest fear, if we're being honest. Like, let's just
literally.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, I mean, like, I genuinely believe that like that those people, I would see them like later on campus and stuff and like future, and they genuinely did not remember what they did. But at the end, he has had this thing of like he like hypnotized them essentially and said, you will feel no embarrassment for like some of like the funny things that like you did on stage, which I think is like very ethical, right? To like make sure that you're like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how ethical the whole performative hypnotism and embarrassment kind of thing is, but people go up there willingly. So I guess that's like, yeah. Layla doesn't have a uvula.
Why?
I love this Sunny Leon C rather than Suddenly I See a name for a boat. That's clever. I like a good boat pun, you know?
I love a good
Selma Kayak. Like that.
Selma Guy. Shut the fuck up. I love that. That's so nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think there should be like a distinction between like therapeutic hypnosis and performative hypnosis. You know what I mean? Like,
I think there definitely is. Like, I think
like calling them the same thing is almost like it's so bad for the brand of actual legitimate hypnosis. Spoiler alert, there is such thing as legitimate hypnosis that's like therapeutically viable and stuff like that.
I mean, I think the brand for hypnosis is like Scooby-Doo getting a freaking clock.
Right.
Like,
That's what I'm saying
not,
is like, well,
yeah.
so, I mean, without
I
getting
mean, I
too
don't
far
think there's a
into
brand
it.
to destroy, is what I'm saying.
Well, I guess I'm saying for people that use hypnosis as a legitimate therapy technique and like, you know, work in the hypnosis, psychology, and neuroscience area, saying you work in hypnosis, even though there's like papers in the Lancet and stuff like that that are like, this is the top journal that you can ever be in is the Lancet. And there's been a published paper, granted it was from the 80s, but still about the legitimacy of hypnosis using fMRI. And they still aren't taken seriously. And even though it's a legitimate form of science, I've since discovered, I used to think it was like hookah? No, that's a pipe. Anyways, hokey pokey, sure. Yeah. I used to think that it was like astrology, like, oh, cute, fun, but not real science. It's just like suggestibility and people going along and like social pressure, bias, and that sort of thing. But like, the shit that they do in stage performance hypnosis and the stuff that they do in therapy style hypnosis are wildly different. Like they rest on the same kind of mechanism, but like,
Well,
yeah.
forgive me, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think we fully I think part of the reason that it's like you as a neuroscientist or budding neuroscientist is like hypnosis, because I don't think we fully understand the mechanisms, right? And then there's also
That's very true.
some studies to counter the fact that like there's a suggestibility aspect where you can essentially implant memories in somebody if you like talk about something that is like that they think happened, or you know, like you can,
especially children. Yeah,
exactly. So like that suggestible aspect, you can create things that weren't there initially. So yeah,
definitely. I love these more ship puns. Not too shabby. Ship happens, I guess. Did you ever see the Space Cadets reality TV hoax show made by Channel 4? No. They went through a whole selection process, picking the most gullible people they could, and then convinced them that they were sending them to space. Stop it. I feel like the stage hypnosis stuff tends to get target audience members like those. I think that's a fair point. And I mean, if it's fun, it's fine. But like lots of the times you hear about it like being dirty and people like dry humping a stranger on a stage in front of hundreds of people. And I'm just like, who's this helping? Like, what are we doing here? You know, I don't know. If you could hypnotize someone to be able to do a backflip or do something they wouldn't otherwise be able to do, then call it a show. But just watching people act stupid, just get them drunk. They'll do it anyway. You know?
I mean, fair, probably. Like, I mean, that goes to Hanaconda's point, where it's like they're already highly suggestible.
Well,
I mean,
and that's evidence-based.
Yeah, like what, 70 years ago, we still had like people that had physical disabilities as part of freak show circuses. So I mean, like, we're advancing slowly, I think. Maybe.
Well, and the data suggests that in terms of like high hypnotizability, medium and low, that like society does stratify into kind of like a pseudo bell curve according to like the people that actually study this you know, scientifically. And obviously you and I would fall into the low or not hypnotizable. Most people are kind of in this sort of yes, sort of no, but there's like 15-20% of the population, according to this Stanford hypnosis dude, that
Stanford hypnosis dude?
Steger, hold on, I need to look at my notes. What's his name? Spiegel, Spiegeles.
I cited one of his studies.
So according to his research, about 10 to 15, sorry, I said 15 to 20 are highly hypnotizable. About 10 to 15 are low hypnotizable. And then the rest of the world is kind of moderate. But it's a state that's apparent, or a trait apparently that's stable over time. So if you have always, like you have been and always will be relatively hypnotizable if you started, it's like almost like a personality trait.
Interesting. Oh, is he appointed in anesthesiology? Stanford Medicine, brain's perception of pain. No, maybe not.
Yeah. He's all over the internet. Like I said, I listen to podcasts and stuff like that to
Yeah,
prep for
I
this, and
know.
all of the ones I could find
No, he's a
either
good
had
guy.
this guy on or talked about this
Hmm.
guy's research. So like he's kind of the granddaddy of all that.
Yeah,
But
that's fair. I
yeah.
mean, um, yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, there is legitimate. That was something that like, so I kind of, my research for this episode kind of diverged into two pieces, right? Of like
Mm-hmm.
actual validity of hypnotic therapy, right? Which
Yeah.
there has been like I mean, it's still weird because the field is like very biased against it, and I think it's because we lack a sort of mechanistic understanding of how it works.
That's true of
But
most of the brain science that we do, though. Like, we don't know how to,
super fair.
anyways.
Yeah, we could cite the fMRI fish study and all that, absolutely.
Right? Too.
Um, but I think like there is quite a like for specific things. Like we're not gonna like cure all psychological diseases via hypnosis, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it has pretty good evidence for phobias. And then some of
Absolutely.
the other ones that I found were I mean you hear about it for smoking cessation all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
Headaches and migraines apparently, which is really interesting. Irritable
Yeah.
bowel syndromes. We're talking about, actual chronic pain
Yeah.
syndromes. And then pain during labor as
Yeah.
well. Which I'm like, are you getting hypnotized
Well,
pre-labor
so
presumably?
apparently
But
you can, and there is a lot of the best
mm,
evidence that I was able to kind of like find was mainly in the pain world, and that when you compared it to uh, clinician dosed painkillers versus self-dosed painkillers versus hypnosis, that hypnosis won. I didn't look into the nitty-gritty of the study. That sounds a little bit extreme to me, but like the before and after on like say a numerical rating scale with 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, the only one that got to the 1 in this study was hypnosis. And as pain researchers, that kind of makes sense when you think about the stuff that's actually distressing about pain, because most people aren't saying, oh, this sensation is what's bothering me. It's the fact that that sensation is distracting or preventing you from sleeping
yeah.
or preventing you
I
from doing your
mean,
regular activities.
your entire thesis was about how the affective component of pain is probably worse than the actual sensation component of pain, right?
It's
So
where the
again, yeah,
unpleasantness is.
yes.
Otherwise,
So if
pain
we're
is just another
tapping,
sensation.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, if we're tapping into, if the hypnosis is tapping into, I mean, pain catastrophizing, if
Yes.
you're, well, I'll talk about this briefly. This
Yeah,
is
please do.
a metric that we have in the pain field, which essentially it measures um, how emotionally heightened people become thinking about pain, how much
Mm-hmm.
they ruminate about it, these kinds of
Yes.
things. And so it's essentially it's like how much of your pain, how much do you when you have a pain experience here, how much like psychological burden do you have on top of that
Yeah.
that makes you like think your pain is going to be much worse and then it
Right.
becomes worse. And so I mean that emotional and affective component could definitely be like um like what is attacked via like hypnotic therapy essentially, right?
Yeah.
Because it's essentially phobia, it's fear of pain.
That and expectancy
Yeah.
effect, which is also
Yes.
something that we study when we talk about pain. There's, a bunch of famous studies that we used to teach when we were both still in our PhD and doing TAing and stuff that shows that if you tell people they're getting an opioid and don't give them an opioid, or if you tell people they're not getting an opioid and you give them an opioid, that expectancy effect actually changes their ratings of their own pain. So like if you told them you're not getting an opioid, but you gave them an opioid, they would say that they have worse pain ratings than if you gave it to them and told them that they did get the opioid. So the effect of knowing or thinking that you're getting, a perceived effective kind of intervention is powerful, which suggests that there is something to this kind of like mind end of things, right? The cognitive, the affective, whatever you want to call it. And those are just a bunch of jargon words for, the brain's control over the rest of, your existence, right? But placebo's a hell of a drug. Yeah.
Literally. Okay, so there's a couple things in chat that
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
wanted to
Let's cover
address.
that.
I realized we never actually addressed Hanaconda's question right at the very beginning, which
Oh.
was how we came up with the name for vulgar science. So this is like going to be a
Oh, yeah,
huge
yeah, yeah. Let's
tangent,
go back to that,
essentially.
and then we'll touch on
Um,
the rest of the stuff because they said some really interesting things.
yeah. Do you want to start the story, or do you want me to start the story?
You tell it better than I
Okay.
do by a long
Okay.
shot.
So we were hanging out. Alicia and I come from the same graduate school lab. We were hanging out after a Christmas party, drinking a bottle of red wine that we had snagged at the end of the party. And we were talking about how one of our, as we said, we TA, we were teaching assistants, and we used to teach about pain. And one of our students emailed us and said, "Oh, thank you so much. You guys vulgarize science really, like you're very good at vulgarizing like
Mm-hmm.
these elements." And so I was like, we, for context, went to a school in an area that's very bilingual, like French English, and so I was like, I've never heard of this. So I like looked up the word, and
Yeah.
vulgar, to make something vulgar, to obviously means to make it lewd and crude, but it also means to make something highly accessible in like lay
Yeah.
language, essentially.
To
So
boil it down to
that's
like its base element, right?
exactly. So I we sat there and I came up with the idea for vulgar science at that point. And I think
Yeah.
Alicia was getting ready to start streaming. She was really interested
Yeah.
in Twitch streaming. And so yeah, we like created the name for the our
Yeah.
like joint
Well, because
program
we
at
had
that
been talking about doing a podcast or something like that for
Yes.
a long
Yeah.
time, mainly because Sean was just like, you guys would get people interested. And we were always like, no one knows about science. The lay public needs to get it. They need to know. We need to share this with the
Yeah.
people and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's how vulgar science came to be. And
Hmm.
I'm glad that we, did it, even if we took a couple year hiatus and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the hiccups.
So that's how vulgar science came to be. The
Yeah.
fMRI fish, I think, is the next quickest thing. So
Yeah.
we have this anecdote that we bring up sometimes. I think we brought it up on stream previously, but whenever you talk about fMRI data, you have to always talk about it in the context of change from somebody's like default. There's like a term. What's the specific
Well,
term?
the default mode network is,
Thank
yeah.
you.
It's basically like you need to have a background signal that you compare something with.
And so essentially, I think the default mode network sort of is like most exemplified in the fact that at one point they put, let me see if I can find the actual study. They put a dead salmon, dead fish.
Yeah. So the idea
Yeah.
is if you just put something in a scanner and ask for voxel based readings or a bold signal in the case of fMRI, what it's looking at is oxygenation levels relative to areas around it. So it's going to give you a heat map essentially of what you're looking at, and areas that are high in whatever activity relative to the lowest areas of activity of the thing you're currently scanning will show up one way or another. So if you put a dead fish in an MRI scanner, you will get different areas of blood oxygenation showing up, this bold signal that we use as our dependent variable in fMRI. But that doesn't mean anything. It's a dead fish. It's not like, oh, there's life after death. He has a soul. Like, sure, maybe it is, but this isn't proving that. All this is proving is that you need to have a good control measure before you go on and, use stuff.
So yeah, essentially, whenever we talk about that, we're like, do we fully understand all of the science that we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes there's like little examples like that where we're like, okay, we need to better explain or better like understand certain aspects of science. So yeah, when we're talking about we don't understand the mechanisms of hypnotism fully, we don't necessarily understand the mechanisms of like some of the methods we use in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then Hanaconda had really great points about like addiction and stuff like that as well. Is there anything you wanted to address?
Well, so they say would be great if it could be reliably used to help people with addictions, which I completely agree. And I mean, that is an area like Layla already alluded to, smoking cessation is one of the areas that it's probably the most kind of pop psychology popular for. But I think the thing that I've learned in the researching of this episode, or whatever we want to call it, this stream, is that hypnosis isn't against your will. Like, despite what you might think about people doing embarrassing stuff and like things like that, ultimately, if you don't want to, you won't, because you're not getting your entire mind taken over. Because what hypnosis really is this kind of focused attention, relaxation, and suggestibility. Those are the three components of being hypnotized. So the suggestibility is really the only one that kind of makes it so that you could kind of conceptualize it as mind control. But at the end of the day, you're only going to be hypnotizable or do the things that you were hypnotized to do when you're in the hypnotic state. So if you don't re-up that hypnosis over and over again and keep using it, and it retains its potency, so to speak, then it will eventually, your brain will take over, because it's this default mode network that's basically the only thing that's online when people are hypnotized, as far as we know. It basically turns down a bunch of these areas that are related to pain processing, for one, but also just general sensory processing. And basically, it's kind of like, you've seen like ads for those loop headphones and stuff like that, or like you go to a concert or you're walking down the street and there's traffic noise and stuff like that, and you pop on your headphones, but before you turn your music on, there's just that, it's very much like that is what the data seem to show, but it's that for your brain. And then in that case, you don't have the competing, oh, I have to remember to get that from the grocery store. Oh, shoot, it's 3:45 already. I got to get going. Oh, it's traffic. There's going to be, I'm going to be late because it's Friday and it's a holiday weekend. All that kind of stuff basically gets turned down because of the targeted focus, relaxation. And then you become suggestible to other things because you're not using the rest of your kind of cognitive power to worry about the things you ordinarily would be. So all that to say, you would need to keep doing it for addiction,
Yeah, I was going to say, and you pretty much mean that that's probably within a session, and then there's obviously some lasting effects, but it's not obviously continuous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think one of the elements that also I think is important probably is that it probably alters like the positive or negative like valence of items, right? So it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, I want to stop smoking, but I have this like biological need for it. As you said, it probably sort of turns down and it convinces your mind that that biological need, in the same way that like you have hunger pains and some people have like very intense hunger for something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, this is not that serious. We dial that down,
Yeah.
and then we dial up sort of this motivational aspect. So
yeah. I think you hit on a really important kind of and subtle distinction that, people might not catch on to necessarily, which is valence. And I'll add on to that also salience. And those are two kind of jargon words. For valence is basically the goodness or badness of something. So a positive valence would be something that's, good, approachable, something that elicits, attention and approach. And something that's negative valence would be the opposite, something that, you don't like it, turns this part of your brain off, that sort of thing. Whereas salience is how loud that signal is, regardless of the valence of it. So what hypnotizing or hypnosis tends to seem to do, according to what I've seen, is it plays with both of those things. So in the case of the cigarette smoking, what lots of them will do is take something that taste-wise, a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, I love the first hit, blah, blah, blah. And they'll make it taste like dirt or something like that by hypnotizing that suggestion into your mind. So that changes the valence of this already very salient, very important cue or behavior that you're doing. So it becomes something aversive in the same potency that it was previously positive. And that can be really powerful, right?
Exactly. Sean mentioned something in the chat, which I think also is relevant to what I've been looking up for this stream, and that so the university that we went to was involved in the Canadian branch of like MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Which I mean is not necessarily hypnosis relevant, but I think we think about that like when you think about hypnosis, right? I think some of the times the reason people maybe are hesitant to do it is because oh, saw a squirrel.
Yeah, or deer sometimes. You can
So
keep going.
yeah. So I think there's a bit of a stigma around it, right? We see in like, Scooby Doo where like they're waving the clock, like the stopwatch, pocket watch in front of somebody's face, and then their eyes go all like silly. But then we also associate it with like, this like mind control. We're trying to like
We're back.
sort of experiment,
Mm-hmm.
and how do we like make people more pliable? So I kind of wanted to briefly talk about
Yeah.
how we talk how mind control and like brainwashing are kind of talked about in media, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah
absolutely. So I
yeah.
can't remember what I was listening to, but it was one of the podcasts that had this Spiegel guy on, and he was
Mm-hmm.
talking about like an old study. I think it was from MK Ultra and the CIA kind of mind control
Yeah.
studies, and essentially they had this woman who was highly hypnotizable, and they hypnotized her to do a bunch of stuff, and she was willing. Cliff McAllister or Cliff Alistair
Hello,
McLean,
hello.
welcome in. Long time no see. Hello. Glad to have you here. What was I talking about?
This highly
Oh,
suggestible, highly
right. So
hypnotizable
this
woman.
woman was suggested to be, hypnotized, and she successfully
Mm-hmm.
was suggested to do a bunch of things. However, they came to the suggestion that she get entirely naked because this is before ethics mattered at all in studies, and she wouldn't, despite being successfully hypnotized to do all of the other stuff. Of course,
Interesting.
this is a single case from like the fucking 50s or whatever it was. So, grain of salt. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea that he was trying to inject with that anecdote is that your will still very much matters, and when your conscious mind comes back kind of online, when your top down processing comes back online, and your frontal lobe is able to kind of make executive decisions like, ooh, do we actually want to do that, that's
Yeah.
when you basically will kind of cease to be hypnotized.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like, I think again, I think it's really understudied. It's like how malleable the human
Mm-hmm.
mind is, both socially and then
Yeah.
independently, up to a point, right? Until you reach a certain point of you're like, I will not go any further than
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I think having to study those kinds of things, I think we would have to like bypass ethics boards, which we now have, which we didn't have back then, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm this Spiegel guy, I'm sure he got away with some stuff. Like he seems to be like he'd been in the field for a long time, and I'm
His
sure he got away
parents
with.
were hypnotists and I
Oh,
believe psychoanalysts. So
okay. I'm gonna go look him up really quick, but I feel
yeah,
like
he's old,
Stan.
so he was probably around before ethics were like deeply something we cared about. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because like Stanford is well known for like low ethics experiments, and I
yeah,
think
Stanford
you know
prison experiment, that famous guy,
yeah, that could 100%,
that
which
old
also
pearl,
has to do with malleability up to a point,
right?
right? Like,
Yeah,
um,
that's something that I wanted to bring up and see what people thought, chat and you,
yeah,
is to what degree do we call, the suggestibility that we engage in socially and that kind of like social compliance, to what degree is that a type of hypnosis, right? Because when I was on stage and got rejected from doing the hypnosis thing, there was a
hmm
moment in my mind where I was like, do I just play along? Do I just do it? And
yeah,
if I had like gone like full tilt, done it, and just went along with the bit, is that different than just doing it? Like, how different is the actual mechanism that's happening in our brains? Do you know what I mean? And there's no
yeah,
studies on this. I don't know that there's any correct answer, but it had me kind
hmm
of rhapsodizing a little bit, being like, what is true hypnosis? You know?
yeah. I mean, it's like what you are like trying via social pressure and social
Yeah.
desirability and yeah, how does that actually differ from hypnosis? Because hypnosis, there
Yeah.
is still a component of that. It's just it's within sort of maybe a slightly different context, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like
Get a Grip says, I think that hypnosis removes the social stigmas, though. I mean,
Yeah.
if we take the model of hypnosis being something where you turn off that kind of part of your brain that's worried about perception and worried about, you know, the day-to-day things, if we take that as, you know, the gospel of what we know or our best guess of how hypnosis works, then yeah, I would say you're probably right. But interesting thought experiment.
Sorry, I'm just reading. Get a grip, almost like having an excuse to take off your clothes or something. Get a grip does it all the time without being hypnotized. Shade.
Y'all crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you could even apply that to sort of like the MK Ultra stuff, right? It's like how
Yeah.
malleable are, you know, for instance, this essentially it started at Harvard, then it was obviously at like McGill as well. And I can't remember if it was other universities, but it was, you know, the CIA essentially trying to trickling down from like Nazi experiments, trying to figure out how they could make soldiers malleable enough or do mind control on
Yeah, to make a
soldiers
super soldier.
To essentially have them do unspeakable acts without, you know, any kind of
Turns out
bias.
people
And I'm
do
like,
that anyway. They'll be like, I am
exactly,
fully willing to do
we
this.
did
Get
we
my
need
application
mind
to Guantanamo today. Like,
yes. And I mean, yeah, so like it like they gave them like LSD. Sorry, I just have the Wikipedia
yeah,
page
go
up.
off.
Which
I don't
honestly
know
is
that
so
much about
interesting.
it. I tried to watch the movie and it was
Yeah.
so colossally boring. Also,
So like
most of the people I hear talking about it are like male podcasters, and I'm just like, I've heard enough from these guys. All of them.
yeah,
Which
so
is
they
not
gave
true. I
them
listen to podcasts all the time. But conceptually, that's what she thinks.
yeah. I know I'm enough every fucking every podcast isn't like what is it? There's like the ratio is like 1 to 5 for women versus
Oh,
male podcasters,
really?
isn't it? I think so.
I believe you. You could have said like
Yeah.
1 to 20 and I'd still believe you.
I might be pulling that out of my ass, but I think it's like similar.
No, that feels
Um,
right. If someone else wants to come in with a more accurate statistic, then by all means, please do. But
yes, please do. Um, hypnosis removes social state. Yeah, due to lowering inhibition. So like hypnosis was used as part of this experiment. Again, they also obviously used like LSD or barbiturates, amphetamines, all these other things to try to like put people in a state maybe similar to hypnosis where
yeah.
you're in this like socially destigmatized state
Mm-hmm.
and convince them to do stuff. And it said they wanted to create hypnotically induced anxieties, increasing the ability to learn and recall complex written matter,
Yeah.
increasing observe and recall complex arrangements of physical objects. They knew nothing about science. relationship personality susceptibility to hypnosis, which we've talked about already a little bit. And then anterograde and retrograde amnesia. That's actually so interesting too. Like trying to get them.
I think one of the most kind of compelling things that I found about like the therapeutic kind of aspects of hypnosis is that things like EMDR, which is I can't even remember what EMDR is, eye movement desensitization therapy. EMDR, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I actually don't think I do.
Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing is a structured psychotherapy. This is an AI overview, apologies, that enables people to heal from symptoms of emotional distress resulting from traumatic memories. So one of the classic versions of this, and this is where it sounds very, very, very like hypnosis, is
I have heard of it. Yes. Okay.
Move your eyes, you make your eyes do the tracking saccade, which is like what happens when your eyes follow something. They don't go in a straight line. They kind of do like a little scallop moving called a saccade. But basically, you'll be recalling a traumatic event. This is in a therapeutic setting with a trained professional, by the way. And you will keep your head still, but move your eyes along with a stimulus that's usually controlled by the experimenter. And basically, it brings the memory of the thing you're recalling into a labile state. So it's able to be restructured, recontextualized. This is what I'm sure you were talking about earlier with like phobias and stuff like that. I'm sure this is one of the ways that that's done. But EMDR leverages the fact that your eye movement and sensory input can kind of disrupt the mind-body association that comes with a lot of traumatic experiences, which I don't think I need to say what they actually are, but there's some that are very body related. You know, like things like PTSD, people at war, you know, SA, stuff like that, where you can disentangle that emotion from the body so that when the body keeps the score, hey, when your body is recalling something because of a separate thing, maybe it hears a car backfire and thinks gunshot, and then you go into panic mode. If you're, you know, a soldier that's got PTSD, you can kind of recontextualize that and make it so that those two things are not as intrinsically linked as they were previously. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I actually have a really great anecdote for
Tell.
something that you're talking about, which still also kind of plays into like, you know, what we're talking. So obviously we hear a lot about, I mean, even non-scientific people like Trump and his administration are promoting the use of psychedelics for traumatic therapy.
Yeah.
Sorry, for trauma therapy.
Yeah.
And I was at a conference recently. So this is a researcher at Stanford working in School of Medicine. I don't know if it's anesthesiology. I think it's anesthesiology. And
Sure.
what they actually did to sort of, so they realized that the experience, like psilocybin obviously is like very hot right now for like trauma therapy.
Yeah.
Psilocybin being the active ingredient that's in magic mushrooms. And they were able to recreate the, so I'm just this is not a published study. This, I was like preliminary results that I saw, so I'm trying to like recall it as best I can. But it was, they're able to recreate the experience of psilocybin by using propofol, which is an anesthetic
Yeah.
agent, to induce a state of lucid dreaming in individuals. And through priming effects, so they would talk about a little bit about the traumatic experience before and then after as well. They were able to essentially allow people to recontextualize their traumatic
Yeah.
incidents during this dream state that they were
Yeah.
experiencing under like low grade propofol, essentially. So it's like dream therapy, psychedelic slash anesthetic induced dream
Yeah.
therapy.
I love
um
that.
I know. So it was so interesting. So it was a very small sample. They only had like 8 participants, but it was longitudinal. So it was over time, and they were able
I
to
love
see
that.
that their trauma ratings were going down. And these were people with like severe PTSD. An example was a woman who had um, her son die via trigger warning unaliving himself. And essentially like she was able to have these dreams where she was just able to walk alongside him and talk to him, and
Wow.
essentially like and had significant improvements because of that. But one of the
Right.
things that was also brought up is that trauma like experiences, I think there's a small handful of studies, if they are not well handled and well um
Yes.
yeah, if you don't have like a licensed professional working alongside you in these studies, you can actually make people's traumatic experiences worse, even though you're trying to do a therapy context. So like there are some experimental studies where people's therapy, like their people's traumatic trauma PTSD gets worse
Yeah.
when you are like studying it. So because
Yeah.
it's come to top of mind and when you're talking about it and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's part of, I think, like it ties into like the pain rumination sort of thing. Like if you
yeah.
bring something into focus, you're almost hypnotically, you know, over attentioned on that, right? Because again, the hypnosis, according to like the sciencey end of things, is this, you know, engrossment, this complete attention, this, you know, what's the word he uses? I have it actually written here in my fucking notes. Absorption. being absorbed in something. So you can imagine a world in which if you bring something to front of mind in a therapeutic setting and that you ruminate over and over again about it, that it might be worse. So if you did that wrong, I could see that backfiring. Hannah Conda had something really interesting to say that everyone was curious about. So
Darren Brown said one of his mind control things worked through exposing someone to an idea multiple times. Okay, priming effect before the show so that they would be programmed to know what to do. Is that hypnosis? And if so, is advertising also hypnosis? No, I would say that that's priming. Like, similar to what I was talking about, before you go into this lucid dream, you're going to talk about the thing that you want that person to dream about, and then they'll have sort of that experience in that setting.
Yeah, I think it's close. It's kind of in the same ballpark, and I can see why someone would think of that as being hypnotic, because it is kind of in that, you know, showy sort of mentalism kind of way of things. But the word for that, as Layla said, in true science, is the priming effect, and you can prime people. One of the first studies I was ever involved in was in an eating behaviors lab, and was looking at the priming effect of looking at images of thin models before rating body satisfaction scores, and used eye tracking. So you put your face in like a little thing, and it tracks your pupils and your fixation points and dilation and all of this. And we show them we showed them a slideshow of 25 images. This is published, by the way. 25 images of thin models, or 25 images of as gender neutral a shoe we could find. And then we put them in there and we show them body related words or neutral words. So you would have things like flubber, or like real words, but flubber's not a word, is it? I don't know. Anyways, blubber? Like blubber or chunky, or, you know, skinny, and like all of these weight related words that we had done pilot studies on, you know, a whole bunch of metrics for before. And you saw which ones they paid more attention to, and we gave them a whole bunch of body satisfaction validated inventories, and found that the priming effect of showing people a bunch of skinny models, particularly women, was that they would pay more attention to fat and thin associated words, and their body satisfaction scores would be lower, which is shocking to probably no one. But I would not call that hypnosis. I would call that attention funneling kind of thing, which is one part of hypnosis.
Yeah, I mean, I think a really good example, and I wish I knew enough about it to be able to bring up the video, but essentially, you know, there's those like magicians that like will do stuff in like on the street or whatever, and
David
like they
Blaine.
had whole show. Like Darren. Oh, why am I saying Darren Chris? That's not it.
Chris Angel?
Chris Angel. That kind of
Mind Freak?
That kind of stuff. So somebody like that, essentially, they had like 2 clients coming into this business meeting, and they wanted them to like come up with like a concept. And then when they came up, they ended up drawing this like artistic concept. They like whipped out their paper and they're like, I knew that you were going to draw this. But essentially they go back and they show them driving in, and they're like, and we primed you with like this element, we saw this over here, and it was a mural, and there was this statue, and and then we used these words when we were talking to you, and then essentially like to essentially get them to draw something that they had already like primed them to draw. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, it can be very subtle, but it can be like very efficacious when it comes to that kind of thing. Also, do you remember Flubber? You mentioned it, and I blast from the past. It's so
fucking
hard.
Robin Williams movie where he plays Goo. Yeah.
That
famous role of his.
So
it's
much
the
better
genie,
than
Mrs. Doubtfire, and the Goo from Flubber. Is its name Flubber? The Goo is Flubber.
Yeah.
Flubber is the Goo.
I do not remember the plot of this film in any context, but I definitely thought it was better than a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe because I was a child watching it.
I don't know about that. I know that there was a song in it that a whole bunch of people would sing. Oh, he's the scientist in Flubber. He's not the Flubber itself.
Oh, yes,
Well,
he is.
honestly,
Yeah,
a straight miscast, because he would have fucking excelled at being the goo. The man's a fucking
he's developing a new
chameleon.
energy source.
Bird
His
Banes,
crayon.
hello, welcome in. Nice to see you. Good
Hello.
to
Hi, hi,
have you.
hi.
He
We're
also
just.
might be the flubber.
I mean, yeah. I don't think Flubber talks. I think Flubber just like dances.
Wait, there's a song that it like dances along to that I remember
Yes.
like a bunch of children
Yes.
singing like in the playground and stuff. What are we up to today? Today we're talking about hypnosis. Right now we're talking
We're
about the
talking
movie
about the movie
Flubber.
Flubber.
But in general, we were talking almost exclusively about hypnosis and related things.
Anyway, sorry. That was a
Yeah.
weird sidebar that we ended up on.
I want to say one more thing about the advertising before we move on.
Yeah.
Which is, I think a lot of advertising leverages frequency and exposure to make something easier to come to someone's mind, and that it's less about convincing you need a Coca-Cola now. It's if I show you Coca-Cola 50 times, then the next time you're thirsty and craving something, the most easily accessible thing to your mind might be 50 times or however many times you saw an ad for that, more likely to think of Coca-Cola. So they're investing not in something that they want to activate you like a sleeper agent to go and do. It's they're trying to kind of basically make the long con and leverage the fact that when you're not using your frontal lobe as much and you're just like, fuck it, yeah, let's get burgers, okay, what should we get? McDonald's, that everyone knows that. Whereas like more niche places and stuff like that aren't gonna pop into your head.
Yeah, I think about literally you're like talking about Coca-Cola and like there's all of the there's priming effects. I immediately go like the sound
right?
of like the can opening, right? Because like that's what you see
Yeah,
that in movie theaters, you see
100%.
that, right? So it's like associated with this like very visceral experience that you think about.
Alan Tudyk is so good. Who's Hi Hi? Is that who he plays in, or Hey Hey?
That's the chicken in Moana. Hey hey.
Oh, I
I
love
find
that.
that character. This might be a hot take. I find that character effing awful. I hate that character so much. The
In
chicken does
Moana?
not talk. Yes. It's so annoying.
He does have unnerving eyes.
It's just like he just walks around and gets stuck on things. He's very useless as a character.
How do you feel about Scrat from Ice Age?
I think he's
Similar
an icon,
vibes.
I'll be honest.
He's what?
I mean, he's an icon. I mean, he is so motivated. He's so motivated to get that goddamn acorn, Alicia. Like, just.
The man's doing his PhD and get that acorn. Yes. He said 6 years, I don't care.
I mean, it took him the entire Ice Age to get it, but he fucking did it. I think. I don't even know if he got it at the end. Yes, I like Scrap, but not Hey Hey. Scrap.
Okay,
I mean, Scrap
I'm gonna tell you. I don't think I've ever seen Moana the full way through. I don't think it spoke to me. Okay. New Disney, like Frozen and beyond, people fucking shit their asses off for Tangled. Doesn't do it for me. Everyone's like, ooh, Flynn Rider. Sure. Talk to me about Prince fucking Philip. Talk to me about the guy in the cape singing to me in a forest with the birds. I don't want some guy with a sassy horse. What?
Is Philip from Sleeping Beauty?
That's correct.
Okay, I will take Philip. I thought you were talking about, is it just Charming from Snow White?
Yeah, that's
the princess from Snow White and Cinderella ain't shit. I'll be so real.
Same guy. Also, do nothing. I guess Cinderella's guy goes around trying to get her shoe back. I feel like he has an ulterior motive. I don't like that.
Being.
One night stand and then he's like obsessed with the girl's feet. Like that's so Tarantino of him.
That's he's just Quentin Tarantino in disguise. I think I need less supercut of Hey Hey being awful to share with everybody. So
please do. And if anybody is watching on Neuralesia and not Vulgar Science, I am not going to put in the mental labor to find out how to make me be able to stream her shared video. So just go to vulgar science if you're not there.
I'll drop the link as well. So
yeah, drop the link.
There you go.
Moana is Pocahontas, but less problematic. Hey, that's fair.
Yes, that's super fair.
If anything's gonna make me watch it, it is that take.
Love
that take
the film
right
Moana.
there.
Soundtrack, excellent. Love the film. Hate Hey Hey with the passion. I watched the movie the first time. I was like, this is the most annoying chicken on the fucking planet.
Okay, I really like his sound though. This does it for me so hard.
All right.
You're like, this is me.
I might be Hey Hey.
Nice water. The ocean is a friend of mine.
That's how you have to approach me when I'm upset.
Hey, hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, you know what?
Then she has to go rescue him. He's a pain in the ass. I'll be so, and I stand by this opinion. Hot take or no?
Yeah, I mean that's fair, and I think you are entitled to that. Yeah, you know, that spoke to me on a level that I don't think I can fully articulate right now.
Like, just put half a coconut over my head and pat
Honestly,
me.
deprive me of my senses. Too many stimuli. Like, put me in a grocery store, I am Hey Hey. Do not like. Put me in a mall, I'm running off the boat.
I'm being convinced by this session that I need hypnotic therapy for my life. I'm like, clear my anxieties. I'm having. Maybe I just need vitamin D supplements, but like, Jesus Christ.
Maybe we just need capitalism to finally die.
Yeah, I mean,
you're getting sleepy. You love Hey Hey.
That's part of my hypnosis.
She comes back, she's like, guys, I think I spoke too soon on the whole chicken. I think we might need to reapproach this, you know.
I'm screaming.
You'll know if Layla did hypnotic therapy between now and next stream if she pops in and is just like, God. Remember we talked about the rosary of rubber chickens?
Oh my God, that's a deep cut from
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut from early vulgar science days.
Why were we talking about that?
Ooh, yeah, I'm not gonna say that I know the answer to that, and I don't think we can find out because I don't think we have those VODs, but
yeah, I have some old videos downloaded, but I doubt I would be able to find it, I'll be honest.
Yeah, there's a clip of us somewhere, I think in my clips or something like that, where we're talking about a rosary. Well, so we said something about a rubber chicken rosary, and then Layla was like, oh yeah, like a rosary with a rubber chicken, or a rubber chicken with a rosary. And I was like, I was thinking of a rosary with the beads being rubber chickens. And then you go, oh, sick. It's my favorite thing. your reply was, oh, sick.
It must have been something to do with like the sound it would make, right? Because that's what.
Oh yeah, can you imagine like Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners? Ah! You know. Honestly, like I'd be a lot more into Christianity if they kind of leaned into the silliness.
I mean, I think that is antithetical to what they're trying to do. You can't do brimstone and fire if it's a little bit silly.
I don't know. Yeah, you might be right.
Sean, have you never seen... Sorry, get a grip. Have you never seen Moana? Jesus. I compare our cat, Pinky, to Pua, the pig, all the time, because the pink nose. Cutie patootie with the schnooty.
No, we are on track. I've seen Moana. I feel like we've got off track here. There were zombies in the Easter story. That's pretty silly. Hanaconda coming in with hot and accurate takes. Once again, Hanaconda, you might be the MVP of the stream so far. Are we still on hypnosis? I don't know. Maybe we just hypnotized you guys into thinking that we were still on hypnosis.
Okay, queen.
Not sure we ever were.
Yeah. So we're gonna. I'm gonna get back. So
yeah,
we were talking a little bit about how hypnosis has been misused. There's a bit of a stigma around it because, you know, when people think of hypnosis, they think of, I don't know, Scooby-Doo or like MK Ultra, right? MK Ultra being this big US and like Canada was recruited into it as well, to like CIA effort to essentially like establish mind control and hypnosis and like drug induced like
Yeah.
states were essentially being used to sort of explore that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is really funny now though is like how mind control, because science was like pretty unethical back in the day and has kind of undermined people's trust in science. I think sort of like whenever people reference mistrust in science, they reference studies from that era, right? We talk about MK Ultra, we'll talk about the Tuskegee syphilis study, like these like really unethical things. If anyone wants me to define those things for you, I can in the chat, let me know.
Give us the Cliff's Notes.
Do I remember what Tuskegee syphilis is? Tuskegee syphilis, I believe, and people clarify if I'm wrong, essentially was studying syphilis by like having Black people like get syphilis. They administered, like exposed them to it, and then studying.
Because Tuskegee is a all Black university from the South, right?
Yes. Cliff, and why are we reading his notes?
You guys.
Uvula. So focused on the uvula. That's the third time.
He's just trying to get us back off track. They're not important, is the thing. They're a vestigial 0%. Organ like your appendix. You do not need that bad boy. Which is why Layla is here thriving despite being uvulous.
I mean, having a uvula was worse for me because it was like it was blocking the airway.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've seen on social media related to like mind control in this era, which I thought was like really just, it's so fucking random, but it was like Raven Simone on a podcast, not a scientific person, obviously, probably the opposite, talking about, have you heard, Alicia, of like the 432 versus 440 hertz thing? Conspiracy theory.
I've heard of people thinking that different hertz of frequencies of sound can like do things to you, like make you shit your pants or, you know, calm the fuck down or whatever.
Okay, so similar. Essentially, some people in conspiracy theory circles believe that so apparently back in the day, we used to use a 432 hertz sort of like standard, like musical standard.
Oh, sure.
And sometime in the 1900s, I believe, it was switched to 440. And people talk about the fact that 432 just sounds better, so we can actually go look.
Is this like a phono and hi-fi and like a whole bunch of like music nerd shit?
A little bit. Give me a second here. Turn that off for a second. Does it let me? If I share with you, then I have to constantly go back and forth, which I do not.
So I know that there are frequencies of sound that are like strongly aversive to people, and that are like sometimes even like illegal to use.
So this is not that, because it's only 8 hertz difference, so it's a slightly different frequency. Ultimately, 432 is more difficult to tune to because it's less standard, right? So 440 is easier to tune to based on, I think, just like instruments and stuff like that. And so this is 440 if we want to listen to that.
And this is the new one.
This is 432 is here. Right. Okay. So these are similar notes, slightly different sound. People are like, 432 is more natural with your body's rhythms, blah, 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 blah. And we changed it from a 432 standard to a 440 standard. Apparently, the Nazis changed it because 440 made people more susceptible to mind control. This is like a thing that this is an actual conspiracy theory that people have. So let me share my screen with you again. Change it. And that it essentially, because it like, yeah, so 432 is like considered, so it's, oh, sorry, I'm forgetting the details of it. It's presumed healing and soothing properties. And vibrations of nature itself if you like dig deep. And then 440 was introduced
Girl,
by
they were
Joseph
just doing
Goebbels.
acid and smoking pot back in the day. Like, settle. No.
Isn't that like
hurts?
So, and yeah, so they were like, we use radio frequencies with 440. And then so there's numerological explanations, blah blah blah. But literally it essentially came, so why do we use it? Essentially it was because tuning instruments back in the day was much more difficult because there was no standard and they used tuning forks, and 440 was like a standard number that they were able to more easily tune to, so they switched to that as a standard. But
dog barking at 440 hertz.
What?
Just get a grip, said dog barking at 440.
But because people are like, oh, it's makes me more anxious, it like taps into my psychological, like there's so much like bullshit about it. And
okay, so there is some believability in different frequencies being able to elicit different kind of things in you, because
emotional states, absolutely, right? Because music sounds
but like
right?
mind control,
queen.
What?
Mind control.
No.
And so that kind of made me interested in like how I feel like mind control and brainwashing are like these like terms that you see in conspiracy theory space, right? People talk about this a lot. Yeah. And so I did like a little bit of digging about kind of like how this language is used. So I'll pull that up as well.
The brown note cliff, Alistair, is what I was talking about, with how there was like one that can allegedly make you shit your pants. I think Mythbusters may have touched on that. And I believe
can you look it up? I want to see it here, but I want to see it.
Yeah, Ezra Pizza, there are a bajillion things on YouTube and Spotify that are like, listen to this frequency of sound and you'll be able to, attune to your higher self. Like, attune to my ass, please. I mean, the BPM of something can certainly make you feel a different way too. Absolutely. The content of lyrics can make it like, humans are inherently social, and one of the ways we communicate with each other is through sound. One of the main ways, in fact. So
lo-fi music is lo-fi for a reason, right? It has like more calming frequencies and sound, and frequency is related to the pitch, right? So if you have, you get to a high enough pitch, you get this weird mosquito noise. I don't know if you've ever heard about this in psychology class, but there apparently some businesses, I don't know how long ago this was, who wanted to drive young people away because younger people have better hearing and therefore can hear higher frequencies, will like play this aversive like high frequency noise, and so that like
that allegedly does work. Allegedly, I haven't looked into it. There's people do that for dogs too. They'll like use dog devices, dog whistles and stuff like that. I mean, to the degree to which that is possible / likely to have happened is, I think, minimal at best. But
say it again.
Just the likelihood of that, the German mind control frequency thing being true is so preposterous. But they use high-pitched noises to keep teenagers away in places in the UK. Yeah, I watched Taskmaster, and Bridget Christie gave Greg Davies, the Taskmaster, a device during the prize round that was like a device that emits a sound that only young people can hear. It's just a little fun fact. It's one of my favorite shows.
I know, I love Taskmaster.
So the new season right now is...
There are people who think intraoral difference can alter brain function.
So
what?
I'll debunk this right the fuck now, if you do not mind. That is fundamentally not possible unless you are operating with an EEG machine, which most people don't have in their homes. So you literally can't use intraoral beats to do anything to your brain waves. Like, you might be able to, just by having auditory stimulation, might, you know, change like theta wave oscillations or delta wave oscillations. But the fact of the matter is, no one in science really knows what those things do. We know they're there. We know things can change it, but no one knows what that means. So people wanting to elicit that is like, meh, like, what you doing? Which hypnosis can actually increase theta wave oscillations, which is why I know so deeply about this. They think that it correlates with higher order cognitive function, so like top-down processing and top-down control of behavior and stuff. You know, your better self that, you know, tells you don't turn your car into oncoming traffic even when you get the intrusive thought and that sort of thing, right? Don't ever do that.
Anti-intrusive thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing that your brain, you know, does when it's inhibiting you or, you know, encouraging you to do the quote-unquote right thing.
Yeah. Sorry. So, are you looking at the paper or no?
I am not looking at the paper. Okay. No, I was reading my notes.
Okay. Sorry. So this is really like the last point I have, which if you have other things you want to add, Alicia, please do. But this was a really interesting article that I found and was reading. Essentially, they compared. Again, I feel like we talk about. I've been like really on this like conspiracy theory cult thing, you know, misinformation thing lately. Yeah. And so they compared sort of the language used by conspiracy theorists on Twitter versus science communicators, science educators, something like that. And I think this is a really beautiful sort of figure to sort of demonstrate that.
Oh, you're sharing. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's nice. Yeah. That's a little word cluster. I love
a word cloud. But essentially, you know, in addition to, you know, mind control and brainwashing and, you know, UFOs, conspiracy theorists obviously use a lot of different language that so these are like examples of different words that were used, but then in summary, essentially, it also says that they use more like anger coded words, that this was probably associated with like a lack of control in their life, and therefore that's why they leaned into conspiracy theories. Let me just like pop to the conclusion because they sum it up really nice. This is scroll for days. Yes. Okay. Conspiracy influencers, as well as their followers on Twitter, are more likely to be characterized by negative emotions such as anger. In addition, we found that followers use language related to power, death, and religion more than science-focused counterparts. And then finally, a greater focus on certainty, past orientation, and outgroup language. So me versus you. So us versus them mentality.
Yeah, that adds up.
Yeah. It was, I don't know, I thought it was really interesting because I feel like, you know, this like disbelief in science that, you know, always comes back to like MK Ultras type shit, right? Of like, oh, well, doctors and scientists used to do this. Why should we trust them? Then sort of leads you down the path of like these kinds of things, which are like anger fueled. And yeah.
So Bird Baines brings up a really interesting point. He's saying the more obvious and currently practiced sounds in the industry that might be being leveraged for kind of mind control purposes is what I think they're getting onto here. Casino jackpot machines are tuned to specific sounds to elicit a pleasurable reaction, keeps people there. I would say that they don't even need to do that, because the thing that makes casino sounds so enticing is the fact that they are an incentive stimuli. So they are a stimuli that's associated with something that is highly reinforcing or rewarding, aka the prospect of winning money, or winning the money would be the actual thing. And that you could use basically any sound and make a Pavlovian association with it and elicit that same sort of thing. And that this has very little to do with actual pleasure, but it is closely associated with that. And it's a really common misconception to think that the only thing, and I'm not meaning to say that you're wrong about this, I don't know the truth of what happens in the gambling industry whatsoever, but what I do know about is gambling research and in the context of addiction. And basically, I kind of lost my train of thought.
So if you shared screen, I'll drop the link as well for anyone viewing on Alicia. As this is just like a cursory search, and so take it with a grain of salt. It does reference a study from the Journal of Behavioral Addictions, though, so that's helpful. So it says that casinos will play background music to affect how people behave. People in the study, people who gambled while listening to a low tempo soundtrack gambled longer because it had a relaxing effect, as opposed to high tempo music. They had faster reaction times with betting.
That I believe. But whether or not it has, anything to do with pleasure and enticing someone to remain, or the sort of thing. The same approach is applied with arcade machines and jackpot machines. You say this, but it kind of works without the money too. So, okay. We'll do an episode on addiction at some point. We'll even do an episode on gambling addiction if you guys want.
I know it's on the list of ideas.
Yeah, it is on the list of ideas. And I think where you guys are maybe getting me wrong here is that I'm not saying that these sounds are not enticing. I'm saying that they're not enticing because they're inherently pleasurable. If you put those sounds anywhere else, it wouldn't necessarily make you go there. If you put them in a dark alleyway with a bunch of, creepy lurker people, you wouldn't be just walking in there not knowing why, right? It's because it's coupled with the thing. And it kind of works without the money too. Absolutely, Hanaconda. And that is particularly for people that are, compulsively gambling or potentially even getting to the point of having a gambling addiction. Is these people have transferred the salience from the reward itself to the cues that are associated with the reward. And it's this phenomenon called sign tracking, which essentially a certain proportion of the population tend to be sign trackers, which is basically this tendency to more readily notice and attribute value and motivational kind of magnetism, if you will, to a stimuli that's associated with the reward in question for that person. In this case, it would be the sights and sounds and smells and, flavors of the environment that's around them and how they intrinsically feel when they're doing their behavior of choice. In the case of this, it would be, gambling. In the case of drugs, it would be using their drug, which is why you get people that get a craving for things when they see their drug paraphernalia, or when they see drug use in a movie, or when they see someone else having a cigarette. It's not because, they want a cigarette because that person wants it and they think that, I want it because it's cool or whatever. It's because that made them think, and then it triggers your mesolimbic dopamine system, which is just basically this kind of lower structure in your brain that's more evolutionarily early, which is why we all have it. And that's what's getting people jazzed about the sounds, not because they find the sounds intrinsically pleasurable in and of themselves. Otherwise, people would just pay to listen to those sounds.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious to know completely. Like, I agree. I don't think that probably the sounds and the lights are inherently pleasurable, but they create an atmosphere, which I think we are. I'm curious to know how much is like it's ambiance within that space, or it's like priming of, we know what a casino is like. We know, we've seen that on TV. So in the same way that you have seen people use pain medication, therefore pain medication works for you.
Yeah.
So there is one. So I was just like looking at the studies available. So it says that psychophysiological studies in regular players have shown qualitative differences between gambling in laboratory settings versus naturalistic casino settings.
Yep.
And so I'm going to go quickly look at those papers and see if that...
This is the ones that were linked in the thing that you just shared?
So it's me following a link was on the link, essentially. So
tell me the authors of it, and I'm willing to bet that I might know them.
Sorry.
Is one of them Daniel McGrath?
Anderson and Brown, it's 1984.
Oh, I don't know those guys. They're old.
Meyer from 2004. So I think a little past our
What
past
university is Meyer from?
Let me look.
Doesn't really matter if I know them. It's just interesting because it's a small world and stuff like that.
That's not it.
So I think another important thing to point out here is that I'm not at all saying that pleasure doesn't have anything to do with addiction or what gets people in the door. It's what people are staying for and what people are compulsively engaging in, right? So a lot of pleasure as it relates to addiction comes into the why you would try it in the first place, what's enticing about it to begin with. And that's the part where the ambiance of a casino being good or bad, the frequencies of the sounds and all of those sorts of things being in and of themselves kind of rewarding because of their, external associations, like, oh, plush red velvet makes people feel rich because of, several centuries worth of encoding that image in our brain watching shit about Henry VIII or whatever, right? And they leverage that for initiation. And that's part of the early kind of stages of addiction that are necessary to move on to the subsequent parts of it. But the Pavlovian association can happen without things being appetitive.
So I don't think they necessarily explored mechanistically, but it says that dopamine levels were significantly higher in problematic gamblers, so people who have during casino gambling compared to non-problem gamblers. So there is
absolutely
that stimulus is,
those would be the sign trackers.
It's salient, it's relevant, but is it inherently pleasurable? Is the touch of the velvet make that sensory experience doing it, or is it the association? I agree.
Well, so the idea is that pleasure, the importance of pleasure drops off rapidly. You might find, ooh, plush carpet, real nice, really good the first time, but this blanket was enticing the first time I got it. It's all soft and cuddly, but it doesn't faze me every time I touch it, maybe because I'm not being mindful or whatever. But those things, that drops off really quickly. And where the dichotomy happens between the populations that will go on to become addicted versus the ones that aren't are the ones that more readily attribute salience to those cues that are related to the thing that they're getting addicted to, drug or behavior or whatever it is. And that's when the feelings that they used to have about the stimuli transfer on to the conditioned stimuli. So there's the unconditioned stimuli. This is Pavlovian stuff 101, but I'll just really briefly bring it to you. The unconditioned stimulus is the thing that does something to you without you having to do anything. So food makes you salivate. I don't need to condition that in you. That's going to happen regardless. Being horny makes people with penises hard. I don't need to condition that. But if I show you, I don't know, a sponge every time you get off, then maybe seeing your dish sponge is going to get your, guy going, right? And that, the readiness or the propensity for an individual to move from unconditioned stimuli, the ones that don't need any intervention from the outside to elicit a response, to a conditioned response. The differences in that are what is one of the main drivers of what separates people into those that are much more vulnerable to develop addiction and those that aren't. And
oh god.
Please don't show me a sponge.
Yeah, the sponges getting people hard was a tangent, but I enjoyed it. It was a good analogy.
It's one of those things that's silly enough that it seems preposterous. No, a sponge would never get me hard.
Yeah.
Right? But that's the power of conditioning, is if you did it enough and if you were the right type of person, that maybe you're a sex addict or something like that, you might be a sign tracker for sex related cues that would very easily have that happen to them. And that would mean that you are more vulnerable to develop fucking sponge addiction,
Imagine having trypophobia, but also be sexually attracted to sponges. That would be
the cognitive dissonance. No.
Trypophobia being a fear of small holes, though.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry. I deep dove into what addiction is and isn't because it's my passion. You see?
Sex is sponges. It's passionate. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. But okay, so Old Man Felonious mentioned Vampire Survivors, so I'm just like literally looking it up right now.
I didn't even clock because the font is the same. That Old Man Felonious was the one that said that. Hi, Old Man Felonious. Welcome in. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, there's not a high variety of colors this time. I feel like we usually have some pinks and stuff. There's a lot of purple and anyways. Sorry, just with people's name tags. What even is this game?
Girl, I don't know.
Roguelike shoot 'em up video game. Apparently it was designed by people who design.
You walk around the screen and things swirl around you and the monsters try to walk into you and you have to survive.
I don't remember that, but I believe you.
Okay.
We don't question the tangents.
Like, I know what this game is.
I could launch into why it's related to hypnosis, by the way. I just don't want to keep the tangent going, but basically we were talking about the ability of things to control your mind, like stimuli found in advertisements, and then we got onto how it relates to, casinos, and we were talking about the frequency hertz that allegedly Germans use to control people's minds in potentially a hypnotic sense, and that's how we got on that tangent.
Yeah.
So I wanted to tell you about one piece of research that I found that I thought you would find interesting and we could share with the folks what a Stroop test is. I think we've talked about this before. Does anyone know what a Stroop test is? Like, I know Layla knows, but anyone in chat know what a Stroop test is? Can you pull up an image of Stroop?
I was going to say, get a grip, freaking must know.
Like a Stroop waffle? I wish it was like a Stroop waffle. That would be a lot more fun. Can you imagine if you were a Stroop researcher and you gave people Stroop waffles as part of your
oh my god, I would love. Yes.
Yeah, right. So the Stroop test. I think Layla's got an image up on hers, or is getting an image up on Vulgar Science. So it's when you get a word, usually it's colors, and you get basically cognitive dissonance is baked into this task. The classic Stroop task is you'll get a word of a color, so BLUE for blue, but that word will be written in the color green, like the actual typeface of that word will be a conflicting color versus one that aligns. So like the word red will be written in red. And you can take people and test them on this as a measure of cognitive flexibility, as a measure of reaction time, cognitive processing speed, a whole bunch of stuff it's indicative of. But high roller, synesthesia IRL, yes. Sorry, Birdbanes, I don't have it shared. Vulgar Science has it shared because I don't want to figure out how to make Vulgar Science's screen show up on my screen right now. But here, I will... I'll pull up Stroop task. If you just Google Stroop task, it'll be right on in there. I did have my screen share set up, and I'm sorry to let you down, Birdbanes. But if you go to Vulgar Science's stream, because we're co-streaming, they'll have it on theirs. Anyways, so in hypnotic state, you can hypnotize someone to think that all of the Stroop words that they're going to see are gibberish. So you can teach someone in a hypnotic, you can hypnotically suggest that the word blue means or something like that. And you basically suggest to them that the word has no meaning. So then essentially they're just looking at like a configuration of shapes in a certain color.
When they're improving, they must improve their performance then.
They are faster. They are faster at the Stroop task, and they think it's because the hypnosis enabled them to basically lower the amount of cognitive dissonance or mental conflict, which is, cognitive dissonance is just the jargon word for mental conflict, which basically, people are bad at this. I'm pretty bad at this.
Yeah.
You can get kind of good at it, but you have to practice.
If you give to give some context, I've talked about the fact that I was assessed for ADHD by a neuropsychologist, and so you get a variety of tests. A Stroop test is one of them, and what they'll have you do is they'll start you easy. They'll say, read the word, and then they'll say, okay, now don't read the word, read the color. Like, tell me the color of the word. So, for example, here, like on Vulgar Science's channel, we would start red, green, purple, and then on the next one, you would have to go green, brown, blue, which is like much more difficult having to like process that. And then what they'll have is they'll have some laid out, and then they'll have like every sixth word in like a box, and they say, okay, when you get to the word in the box, switch. So then read the word, don't say the color. And so there's like this like cognitive processing, but then like cognitive inhibition. Your camera just turned off, Alicia. I don't know what happened. Cool.
I watched it happen.
Oh God.
I didn't do a single thing. I just turned it back on for us, but okay.
Yeah,
I didn't touch anything. Didn't do anything. So maybe I do need to replace the camera.
I think you need a new camera.
I just got this camera.
I know, but
I don't understand.
Not every Amazon purchase is, you know.
Not every Amazon purchase. They're all a sin.
But yeah, so it's like your ability to inhibit is also like in ADHD, you're actually usually pretty bad at this, and if you have slow processing speed, you're going to be worse at this as well.
Impulsivity is like a hallmark of one of the types of ADHD.
Yeah, the inhibition portion of the task at least. So so they improved on their performance, presumably on like the classic Stroop is like the second version of the task where you just say the color of the word.
Right.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Can they not read? Are they illiterate after that?
I don't know. I think they because of ethics have to bring them out of the hypnotic state and all of that. I might have to sneeze. Shoot.
Bless you? Sorry, I ruined it. Oh. Stare at the light.
I got it. I sneezed.
Yeah.
So Hanaconda says, I feel like this requires you to think and ignore instinct, or not instinct, but learned reaction. And yeah, that's essentially what it is. It's seeing how much you can exert. This is when we were talking about top-down control. So the difference between top-down and bottom-up. Layla, do you want to take this one? I feel like I've been yakking my ass off here.
No, you're fine. But
okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I can...
You do top-down, I'll do bottom-up. Huh?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know what you... Okay. So top-down...
Leave! Oh, they're canceled. They're going to cancel us.
I know. So, everything that you do, even physiological processes, have sort of cognitive input. So we talk about, the example I always go back to is pain, because that's what I study. We talk about how you have like nervous reflexes associated with pain. So you touch a hot stove and you back up. But if you have, a more painful experience, someone comes over and pinches you, that goes through your nervous system. And then if you, for instance, are breathing, you're like, I'm going to be calm, I'm not going to react to this person pinching me. That's sort of top-down effect on you, on something that's like a bodily function.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about bottom up?
Bottom up? Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't interrupting. So bottom up is essentially the more instinctual, is what a lot of people would characterize it as. It's the lower order parts of your brain usually are engaged in this. And that's going to be essentially like a sensory reflex arc at its most basic form would be a form of bottom up processing. So you get the sensation coming inbound of touching a stove, like Layla said, and without having to think, without engaging in any of the top part of you, that's the way you can remember this, you will engage in the behavior because it's coming from the bottom up to your sensory system, to your central nervous system, and you don't need to engage in top down. And those two kind of wrestling with each other is what's kind of being evaluated in the Stroop task. And you can still have bottom-up processing that does happen in the brain because things will arrive in the brain. It's frequently what happens when you're arguing with someone, or if you're having kind of a gut reaction to something that's like, ooh, hate that. And then you're like, wait, okay, I need to, take it down a
Can
notch.
you explain that in an Australian accent? Given someone just redeemed "Good day, mate." No, it's okay.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
Thanks. I can't. I have so many
Well,
Australian colleagues. So I feel so
All I ever
disrespectful.
think about is so
G'day,
Alicia
mate.
and I we did a D&D one shot together. We've never actually played a campaign together though.
Hilda.
Done a couple.
Puts another
And-
shrimp on the barbie.
She played this character called Darcy, but I can't even do
Darcy.
that. Darcy was a halfling, and at one point she just like fell over face first on the stairs, and one of our characters had to just grab her little Australian halfling ass and like drag them up the stair, or I think we threw you or something like that. I can't remember. But
Welcome in, Orange Hue. It is really nice to see you again, and thanks a lot for redeeming G'day, mate. I'm gonna do my best for approximately 1 minute. That's about how long I think I can do it for. Sips morning coffee.
I mean, I slide into Cockney so fast. Like, I can't keep up the Australian very well at all.
So my Australian, I've been told, is almost exclusively New Zealand. It's a Kiwi accent. But to anyone that's not from either of those countries, they're more or less indistinguishable. So, and get me a little bit loose on the juice, and I'll be fully committed to this bit. I will talk Australian to you whether you like it or not.
So we could probably hypnotize you into doing a better Australian accent. Social inhibition.
T.
Yeah.
It's a lot more convincing than most Americans. Well, thank you. It's def more New Z sounding. Oh, that's funny. But same thing. LOL. Are you Australian? Is anyone here Australian? Should I know this? Maybe I already knew this about some of our viewers, but I forgot. I know that some of Science's folks are Australian, and there was someone that used to be in my audience that was Australian, and I don't remember if it's them, and I feel terrible, but it was 3 years ago, so I don't feel that terrible. British, I'm down under. It's amazing.
I was guessing that Hanaconda was British because she was talking about stuff up top, that there was like a little bit of the lingo going on.
Yeah. We say she. I don't know. Feel free to drop the old pronouns in here.
Yes,
if we're misgendering you at any point, please feel free to correct us. If it matters to you, if you're a they, them, he, she, Yeah.
I'm assuming a lot.
Whatever. They, them. All right.
Slight inflection on the E's between...
Shid.
AZ? Is that... Oh, Australia? I was like, Arizona?
Arizona?
my American ass. Arizona. Okay.
Yeah. Sound like ass. Got it right at the beginning. Yeah, I try to default to they when possible, and sometimes I'll even they Layla, even though I know Layla uses she, her pronouns. But, because I try to default to a gender neutral, but it's like almost 40 years of conditioning that they is only a plural pronoun in, our North American cisgender fucking conditioned. Hypnotized.
Our American hypnosis? Is that what you're saying?
Just our fucking capitalism hypnosis, man. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, what if we just hypnotize everybody into gender pronoun? Like, I would actually use that. I will, I'm going to go get hypnotic therapy to make me default to they, them. That's going to make it easier because I have
honestly
friends and family members who are trying to use they, them pronouns, and I keep fucking it up, and I'm like,
trying real hard to bring it back there. Yeah, I think it's usually best, but I do know someone who hates they, them. Well, and realistically, I do not care. I do care about people's preferred pronouns. My personal preference for my pronouns is I do not care. And sometimes I'll call men, I'll be like, girl, I don't know. And the amount that men do not like that, even though they'll be like, yeah, man. And no one will fucking bat an eyelash. Oh, it's my favorite. Oh, I would eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Call men girl. Be like, girl, please. They'll explode. Not all men. Hashtag not all men.
Shut the fuck up. Not all men.
Well, certainly the one I chose doesn't care if I do that, because I do that literally all the time. Yeah, or queen. Yeah. Big princess.
Get it together, queen. Get it together.
He wants he or she and thinks they is lazy. I mean, okay. That's their prerogative, I suppose. Or that's his prerogative, by the sounds of it. Go off, queen works wonders. Not all men will explode. That's true. Mm-hmm. Though what a world we would live in if they did.
Sorry, this is very random, but Alicia, do you know why the sneeze thing is, like, the staring at the light sneeze thing is legit?
Something to do with the way that your sinuses are connected to your sensory cortex. I think there's something about the proximity of your sinus and your retina that makes it happen. I'm pretty sure. Do you know?
So if you like press on your eye, I'm gonna just explain this for like viewers. So if you like press lightly on your eyes, you'll notice that like you'll start to see like light flashing, right? And that's because activation of certain nerves, for instance the optic nerve, mechanical pressure on the optic nerve still is perceived as light input, essentially. So it's still neural activation and neural excitation. So that neural excitation is not necessarily discriminate across your nervous system, right? So essentially, and because your sinuses and your nasal system is so close to your optic nerve, excitation of the optic nerve can then send, I forget what nerve it is that causes you to sneeze. Let me look it up really quick.
Some olfactory nerve.
Yeah.
The sun does make me sneeze when I walk outside from indoors. Yeah, it's common. And I've actually been, when I would be doing like long days of surgeries and stuff like that, we would use like a really bright surgical light. And sometimes it would make my chronic sinus headaches like significantly worse. And I don't know, it could be because I probably wasn't drinking water, because you're not allowed to have like water in surgical suites and stuff like that, or drinks of any kind. But back when I was an amoeba, I used to see with my nose. I'm picturing that in the Australian accent. Back when I was an amoeba, I used to see with my nose. Or nor.
Oh my god, I have a hilarious fucking story. This is like classic ADHD shit.
Love.
I was driving home from work one day and I was getting ready to turn to like come down the street that my apartment is on, and I'm driving on this sort of like more main road, and I see a restaurant on the corner which is NAR, N-A-R. That's the name of the restaurant. And I am dying of laughter to myself so hard that I'm like, nar, and just like thinking about this restaurant, saying that out loud to myself in the car, nar, that I missed the fucking turn to go home.
That's really nice. That's nice stuff. That's good content right there. There's just like cruising, just like no. And then you miss the turn, and what do you say? Nar. We need to be canceled. My face hurts. Is self-hypnosis a legit thing? That's a really good question. I hear people talk about it, but I don't know if it's real. A large contingency of the scientific hypnosis community believes that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And that is like a saying that they say. And I believe that it's partially due to what we talked about earlier, with it being a kind of consent-based sort of thing. Like you won't do anything that you truly don't want to do. So engaging in the hypnosis is kind of a self-driven activity in and of itself, even if you're being led through the hypnotic process by a third party. There are apps that you can do. The guy that we were talking about earlier, Spiegel or whatever, has an app called Reverie. I was going to check it out for this so I could like report back, but I did not. But apparently you can tell, there's like an assessment where you can tell right away if you're one of the like highly hypnotizable people or whether or not it'll work for you. But
yeah, I was going to say, I think you read Hannah Conda's question, but this touches on like high rollers as well. In that, I mean, it's the same kind of, like, we've kind of talked about how, like, cognitive behavioral therapy is a bit similar, right? There's a little bit of, like, tricking yourself into, like, making these things work. It's like, oh, my thoughts and my feelings, and I'm separating myself from this thought or this feeling. And hypnosis, I think I agree. There's sort of this consent process of like allowing yourself to be put into, could we call it like a meditative state? Or you know what I mean?
Apparently, meditation is distinct from hypnosis because of the way that they're engaging the mind. So the way that they described it, if I remember correctly, was that one is kind of trying to bring the conscious mind online and focus it, and one of them is kind of trying to bring the conscious mind offline and allow you to kind of like not focus on the thing. So I think in that case it would be like meditation is supposed to be like, notice your surroundings and be in the moment, be present, and that sort of thing. So you're almost trying to notice, and I think in lots of cases be neutral about it, or notice your feelings from a neutral standpoint if you're not able to have like actual neutrality. Whereas hypnosis is basically trying to disengage. It's almost like willful dissociation in a lot of cases, which is I think why they use it again for like memory retrieval in trauma work, and that kind of state dependent memory that we spoke about earlier. And because it puts you in this pseudo dissociative state where you kind of disengage from the kind of parts of you that can feel the stuff around you and notice and smell and hear and see and all of that sort of thing. But that's just the take of the people whose profession this is. So yeah. Where are we?
Maybe. Hanaconda has a couple. She said, they said addicts or people who need continuous treatment would need to be taught how to hypnotize themselves. No, they just need to be open to allowing somebody else to do it, I think.
I think they do need to re-up though. Like I don't.
Yes, exactly.
Because like when you think about it, the urge, the addictive urge, the compulsion that addicted individuals feel is something that you would be kind of railing against, right? So you would need to, leverage the power of the hypnosis, if it is indeed powerful over that individual, to kind of claw that back, particularly when they're in the presence of cues associated with whatever their a drug of choice or behavior of choice is in that case. So
yeah, I was gonna say, if we want to compare it to sort of lucid dreaming, which I'm maybe, again, it might not have correlates, but I think it's close enough that we can kind of understand what it's like. I think like that study I was talking about with like the propofol induced lucid dreaming, those individuals needed re-up for PTSD. So any kind of behavioral habits, you would probably also need that as well.
Yeah, well, and there's certain interventions that can have a deep and profound effect in one session. Like we've spoken before about internal family systems therapy and how effective it's been for me and the neurospicy flavor that I am. And EMDR is supposed to be very effective after only one session. That's the eye movement therapy we were talking about at the beginning of stream. And I think hypnosis is another one that can have a very profound and lasting effect with only one session. But in the case of addiction specifically, especially if it's a pretty severe addiction, I think that you would probably have to engage in that. That being said, I don't know. It is possible that isn't the case. It would probably depend on the addiction and the hypnosis and a whole bunch of other variables. So
I was going to say Nick Kroll, who, if you're familiar with like Big Mouth.
Oh, yes, the comedian.
I'm trying to think of like other big things that he's been in, but he's a stand-up comedy session where he talks about doing hypnotic therapy for smoking cessation.
Yeah.
And it might have been over the phone, even. It might have been like a virtual session, which is kind of insane. But he essentially said he saw effects after the first time, like significant effects, but then over time the effects went away and he did have to go back to for 2 or 3 more sessions.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're trying to establish a pattern in your brain that's going to override another existing pattern conceptually, that the best way to make the new hypnotic pattern the dominant pattern would be to stop the other pattern from occurring altogether, which is pretty difficult. Like, if you're already at a 5 addiction exposure or level or whatever, and you have your hypnosis session that gets you to, you know, a 3 or a 4, but you keep getting exposed. Maybe your spouse smokes as well or something. So you're getting, you know, that exposure is ramping up while you're still trying to catch up to it. So you need to not only deal with the existing stuff, but compensate for ongoing triggers, if you will, for the addictive behavior.
L High Roller has like a really good point about how the mind can play tricks for like coping mechanisms as well. And absolutely, we talked a bit about that suggestibility and tricking yourself a bit earlier, and how, you know, how malleable are people until you hit a certain point, both in a social context and in an individual context. Can I hear a rodent drinking? No, I think that's the keyboard.
That's my partner playing, I believe, Final Fantasy 16, and it's the controller. I think he was in a there's a man with flames. There's a flame man. Apparently someone thought that there was a rodent drinking, and I could see it being like...
It's so specific. Just a hamster on a little wheel.
I mean, if there's anybody that's gonna have it.
Yeah.
Just a random rodent drinking. He turns around and looks at me and is like, I'm so sorry. Anyways, Bahia Bakari, she was in a plane crash and thought that her seat fell out of the plane until she was rescued in the middle of the ocean. She told the rescuers her mom would be mad at her for falling, when in reality it was a terrible situation. Bro, that's fucked. Yeah. Your brain is an amazing protective organ. It will do a whole bunch of stuff to try and keep you safe from what it perceives as dangerous.
Going back to hypnosis, that's one of the, you know, one of the first things I learned about hypnosis when I took like Psych 101 in high school was that hypnotic therapies work, but if you're suggestible enough that your hypnotic therapist, I guess, can implant memories. So what one of those things was repressed memories of SA in children. And I mean, the fact that our brains can repress those experiences entirely, and there are stories of individuals who did not know that happened or were completely unaware of that happening until, you know, they started to years later have these flashes and bits and pieces, or they had like a terrible emotional reaction to something, and then they realized later that it was associated with that thing. So
well, I think that's again the kind of like three-part notion of the hypnosis, where it's like the absorption, relaxation, and suggestibility. The suggestibility is really only kind of one specific part of that, and we're all variably suggestible from day to day, because we might be variably, you know, from this perspective, in a hypnotic state at some points. Like, have you ever been the person where like you'll be dicking around on your phone or watching shows or, you know, whatever it is, typing an email, and someone asks you something and you're like, yeah, sure, because you're so engrossed in what you're doing that you are unable to task switch or to kind of mentally juggle multiple things at the same time. So, I mean, on the one hand, like, that's not really suggestibility, but it is kind of almost a mental vulnerability to not be focusing on the specific thing that you're making a call about, in a way, you know? Dr. Naralisha and Dr. Layla. That's us. Welcome in, Doggylicious.
Hello.
Nice to see you. You're catching us at the very end. Doggylicious is a mod in my stream. I don't know if they're a mod in yours, but and a fantastic friend of ours. IRL.
And fellow D&D.
It kind of reminds me how people forget how much childbirth hurts because otherwise they'd never do it again. Yeah, I also think that there's a large amount of endorphins that get released, and a pretty big reward that makes people willing to endure that pain. regardless of whether they forget it or not. But yeah, that's you know, my boyfriend does that a lot. The two doctors. I'm glad it's the end because I really should go to bed. Yeah.
I was going to say, what time is it in the UK between daylight savings?
Christ, yeah, it's late. It's got to be like 3 a.m. for, no, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2,
6 hours
3.
from the what?
Yeah, 3 a.m. Hey, I'm pretty good.
That's crazy. Okay. Anyways, we are,
yeah.
Do you have any other points or interesting studies you want to bring to the forefront, Alicia,
I think
before
so.
we wrap
I mean,
up?
just breeze through the old noti pies here. Yeah, I think it's worth noting that the connectivity between areas that are very involved in pain processing, pain salience, and general mood and affect, as we call it in psychology, those are the brains that have the increased connectivity during hypnosis, according to the more modern fMRI studies. And that,
can I ask, just for scientific curiosity, what parts those are?
So dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the insula, and ACC. So the anterior cingulate cortex. So these are all cortical, as the name suggests, regions of the brain that are involved in processing the emotional aspects of pain, is what we believe one of their functions is. Of course, it's not the only function, because the brain does many complex and cool things all at once. But yeah, I think that's it. There's also decreased connectivity in your default mode network. So essentially you're kind of like always running in the background, scanning and looking for patterns and stuff like that is down regulated, according to one study. I'm not sure that this is something that's been...
I think that tracks, because if it's a sleep-like state, then you should have slightly lower activity. That makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. My notes are so spread out. No, I think that's it. That's all for me. Oh, did you guys know that the original hypnosis was done by a guy named Franz Mesmer, which is where the term mesmerized comes from, and he believed that you had fluids that were magnetic in your body, and he would like take magnets and try to mesmerize you, and that's where the swoopy thing comes from, is he's trying to like move the magnetic fluid in your body.
I mean, was he completely wrong though? Like, he wasn't that wrong.
I mean, I guess we have iron in our blood. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, we do. You know,
what is it? TMS, transmagnetic stimulation, legitimately is magnets on the brain trying to affect mood. He's not that far off. Transcranial magnetic stimulation, excuse me.
Yeah, mesmer. Can you imagine that, like, you were consequential enough that there's a word that is literally your moniker, but you weren't consequential enough that people know why? You know? Other than like a trivia tidbit. Bet you that guy's white.
I mean, I feel like time, you know,
time.
Slowly but surely. Time.
Yeah, maybe I can make like someone zumbashized. Ooh. Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna coin that right now.
But he call it animal magnetism as opposed to real magnetism? I believe you're right.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was some like absolutely asinine kooky ghost in your blood kind of shit. Like it was
is that why animal magnetism is like? He's like, oh, I'm mesmerized by this animal magnetism. Is that like a thing? Anyways,
I don't know. You got me thinking of that snake that's in the Fox like Disney version of Robin Hood, where his eyes turn into saucers, and he's like, ugh. What's his name? Ka? I think his name's Ka.
Hiss.
Sir Hiss. Is it Sir Hiss?
Yeah. Hi, Roller. Thank you so much that you find our channel interesting.
Yeah.
We regularly do, I would say, topics similar to this. We like to do sort of interesting, relevant, science-based topics. Let me go just find.
So recently we've done cults and the way that psychology intersects and neurobiology intersects with coercive control. We've done what makes you considered smart, like intelligence testing. Is it legitimate? Is it, complete hooey, somewhere in between? How do we test these things and the science there? What else have we done recently? We did luck and whether or not, that sort of thing. What else have we done recently,
I have
folks?
our OneNote document open.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we, with lots of tangents and fun anecdotes, and we obviously make a lot of dirty jokes because, the science is vulgar here, so.
It's a cult. Luck is so full of content. Yeah, so, we did quite a few. Some of them are on my Neuralicia YouTube, which I do not edit them. I just put the raw fucking VODs on there, so just, if you're gonna indulge in that, just be ready for some really intense tech issues that I did not edit out whatsoever. What else have we done, Layla?
Oh, yeah. So we just came back from a 2-year hiatus, so we've only had like a handful of episodes at this point.
Oh,
but
AI! We did AI. That was a good one.
We started up with just like misinformation. We then did, AI, public health, vaccine misinformation, AI.
Yeah.
We did cults, as you said.
Years ago, we did all the personality disorders in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
Yes. We did the 2 other ones. We did intelligence, looking at intelligence testing, different types of intelligence, and then the loneliness epidemic was the one we talked about.
Yes.
Where Alicia advocated low-key for her.
No, we did not.
Like, the snip. I heard Pavlov earlier. I love the clearing of the condition from his... What? Clearing of the condition from his dogs because of the flood. That always has been super interesting to me.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with anything to do with the flood and
I do not... We can look into it more. It's actually... I've recently learned that Pavlov... Actually, so those are classical conditioning studies. And... But he was actually studying like extremely deprived dogs and their salivation.
Oh, absolutely.
He had literally disconnected their like stomachs so that they like couldn't eat. So they were like starving in order to elicit the salivation, which I did not know until maybe like a year ago. So
and he did stuff with their salivary glands and stuff. There was a whole bunch of like fuckery going on there, but
there's like stuff like mounted to them. Anyways.
Yeah, you can definitely do Pavlovian conditioning. Actually, all of the people here that have pets, you are constantly Pavlovianly conditioning your dog or cat or hamster or rat or fish, all of them.
I don't know about a fish.
Oh, 100% a fish. 100%.
Legit?
Big time, yeah. You know the fish that can do mazes and stuff like that?
Oh.
Yeah. That's more operant conditioning, but you can condition a fish. 5 sure.
Caught in a flood where their environment got flooded and the conditioning of the dogs was basically erased. Interesting. Trauma response. Okay, well, we'll definitely have to look that up. Maybe we'll do a whole episode on...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we should do like a history of psychological things, series where we do one of those a month or something.
Tie it into why we needed ethics boards.
Yes, love that. Yeah, let's put that in our episodes to come. Yeah, and if anybody has any great other ideas for this, there is a Discord with the Vulgar Science kind of subchannel. It's the Neuralicia Discord. Fish welfare is my jam. Yeah, feel free to tell us in chat here and we'll try to write it down and remember, or feel free to drop it there and we'll try and take a look there. And if it's something that can take up 2-ish hours, then we'll probably go for it. If it's not, then we'll, try and tuck it into a different topic that it maybe could be enveloped in. Also, this image of Sir Hiss is sending me. I love it.
It's so good. That's exactly what you're talking about. With
yes, that is. It is.
I think back on the stuff that scared me as a child in Disney movies. I'm pretty sure this is one of them.
I loved Sir Hiss. I was always standing villains up in this bitch.
He was a gay icon, I will admit.
Honestly, T. Okay, so we both are like somewhat drained and I don't think are desperate to raid out. So I know we should.
Thank you guys for being here as always.
But we won't skip it next time. Hold us to it, fam.
Yes. Followers old and new.
Yeah.
This has been Vulgar Science with Layla Shode.
And Neuralicia.
Thank you guys for being here as always.
Yeah.
See you later.
Really appreciate everybody's chatting. It's been really fun. Have a good night. Take care of your mental health.